Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Peter Goldstein, and welcome to Just One Thing for Health, our weekly chat with our physician on call, and that's Michael Goldberg, MD, who this week is going to be talking about fasting and the various kinds of fasting and how that can support us in our journey to better health. And with us, we also have Lori DiPietro Standen, who's a certified health coach and who will facilitate this call and share some questions. So this is our 27th week, and we are really happy to share all this wonderful information with you. And if you're curious about any of the other calls, if you missed any of them or our weekly challenges, you can find all that on hippocratesdocs.com. So with that, welcome, Dr. Goldberg and Lori. Please tell us a little bit about your journey, Dr. Goldberg.
My background is in emergency medicine. For many years, I've been a volunteer on Israel's emergency services. Then I went on to be a combat medic in the Israeli army. And after that, I continued to educate people in first aid all over the country for a few years in a private company. Then I did the EMT paramedics course in Israel's National Emergency Services. And after that, I went to med school to top it off. And my passion is to find the most cost-effective and safe methods to regain health. I like things very, very simple. I love to do science and read and look into genetics and all kinds of, very minute and micro information. But for the general public, I like to give a very simple presentation, things that people can work with, and actual tips for life, things that people can assimilate in their lives, and not like just bombard people with information which they can't handle. That's my style of doing things. You'll never see me with the stethoscope or with the white gown outside the hospital. I love to wear the scrubs. That's my work outfit. But otherwise, I'm very casual. For me to be a doctor is a great privilege. I love to work with people and I love to give good service. And yeah, it's something that it was my dream for many years. And it's something that I love to do. It's something that I have a great passion for. I'm always looking to educate myself and finding some new information and following people that are doing good things and working and have sustainable effects. And yeah, that's like my style of doing things. About the fasting, the background, maybe 3 years ago, I saw one interview on one of the TV channels. It was on the YouTube. It was a recorded video on one of the American channels. And it was an interview with Dr. McDougall and Dr. Goldhammer. And they are big pioneers of the whole food plant-based movement, let's say, and doing absolutely amazing work. And after I knew about Dr. McDougall a little bit, they were chatting between themselves, and he said that his difficult patients, he sent to Dr. Goldhammer's True North Health Center. So I said, okay, this is the place to go. And it took me 3 years to organize my life so I can take leave and go to do some training with them. And almost 1 year ago, exactly, I spent 2.5 months at the True North Health Center. They have a program for physicians to train them in water-only fasting supervision. So I was working there full time. And after completing the training, I also did 14 days of water-only fast myself. Because I absolutely practice what I preach. I will never tell someone something that I would not do myself. Sometimes it's not necessary for me because I'm in a good healthy state usually. But It's absolutely very important for me to see myself how the things are, to go through the process, to see that it's safe, to work with the people, and to get really knowledgeable before I can advise someone to do the same.
So Dr. Goldberg, what was your experience with 14-day fasting? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so first of all, before I went into the fast, I had a really excellent preparation because I was working every day and examining and checking all the patients, basically 50, 60 patients every day, and talking about their experiences and examining them and charting everything. So I went into the fast really, really well prepared. And I think this is something absolutely important for people to do. Although it's not necessary, of course. People can do it without any preparation and still have the benefits. But I think like anything major that people want to do, it's better to do it with some preparation and follow the people who can do it safely and the really good authorities. The True North Health Center is an amazing place if someone is not familiar with it. So the links are in the article, they can check it out. And they have a lot of information on their website. And I was amazed from what they do there. I landed in California from Israel after maybe 24 hours of traveling on Friday evening. I was heavily jet lagged, and on Monday morning I started working. So every Monday morning they have a staff meeting, which includes the family doctors, the primary care physicians, then the rounding doctors, the nurses, all the staff, the people from the research aspect of the True North Health Center. And I was tired. I'm not up to, usually I don't like the staff meetings. It's quite boring usually, but I say, okay, let's go. And I was looking at the computer and seeing the data sheets for the patients. And we go in the Monday meetings, they go over every patient. They see what changed. The physician in charge is giving the information. Everyone is getting updated, what changed, if there were any issues during the week before. And I was just shocked of what I was seeing, because I was seeing sick people come, getting off their medicine, starting the fast. Their situation were getting better on the chart, and I was seeing the patients every day. So it was not something that someone told me or read in a book or some article by some unknown author. It was just a medical miracle. I saw people reverse hypertension. People's diabetes was getting better. Autoimmune diseases. There was one case of cancer, which I met the lady after she completed the fast, and I went over her imaging, the CT, and the report from the radiologist about her condition. And basically she came there with the cancer of the lymph node, and she was planned for surgery. She found out about the True North Health Center. I did, I think, 30 or 40-day fast. After the fast, after she completed the process, she went back to her surgeon just before going into surgery. He checked her out, sorry. He didn't find anything. He told her, it's a miracle. I don't know what's happening, but I can't find anything. It seems that you're better. The True North Health Center staff instructed her to request for a follow-up CT to confirm the findings. So she insisted on that. They went for the CT. The CT was clear by the radiologist. In the staff meeting, the woman who is in charge of the research there, she asked one of the doctors if he can review the CT imaging, because she wanted to take one snapshot and put it in the research paper for the British Medical Journal. So I said, okay, I'll help you find it, and we can go together, and I'll show it to you. And so I saw the before CT. We went over it. I found the tumor for her. It was as written by the radiologist. Then we uploaded the review CT, which was 2 months after, and it was absolutely clear. And it was amazing. We saw it in our own eyes. It's not a third-party story or something, you know, that you read in the book or something like that. For me, it was very important. That's why I wanted to do it as well, to see firsthand what's happening there and the results people can achieve. Yeah, so if someone told me what I'm saying now, I would be like, okay, maybe, but we have to see, you know, it's not something that you hear every day of reversing very advanced cancer, at least not in this kind of time frame. Yeah, so I just witnessed medical miracles. And okay, the first patient they introduced, I said, okay, it can be a fluke, you know, everyone can have this kind of statistics. But 50, 60 people in a row, very sustainable, because on a 2.5 month period, I came to see quite a lot of people coming and going.
So can you tell us what is the mechanism by which fasting really resets the immune system? Can you explain it a little in layman's terms, I guess, for those who will be watching this?
Yeah, so to be very frank, because that's what they're also saying there in the True North, a lot of the things we don't actually know how they work, okay? Because there's a little bit of a problem to do research in this topic. The True North Health Center has a problem, let's say, like that. No one wants to publish their research because it's going absolutely against what's happening in the normal modern medicine. If someone comes to the doctor with the first time hypertension, the doctor will give him drugs to lower it and maybe some lifestyle tips. But generally, the person will get, it depends on how high the blood pressure is, but the person will get absolutely a drug therapy for that. And the people who come to True North, they reverse the process. They come there, they remove all the medicines. And I would like to say, not as a disclaimer, because I don't try to be politically correct, I'm not a lawyer, but it's important to understand that they pick very carefully the people who come there, because they have a waiting list of 3-4 months ahead, and they're a private clinic and how to say, NGO, okay? They're how to say it? I forgot the term in English.
Non-profit or?
Yeah, they're non-profit, yeah.
Okay.
They're non-profit and they basically, on what they gain from people coming there and on donations they're working. That's the basis of the work there. So like we know, conducting very high profile studies, it takes really a lot of funding, which they don't have. So it's very difficult to do very big and long-term studies. But they have studies that they published, and now they're working with other institutes, and they have plans to enlarge, and the research facility is growing. I'm just giving the information relevant for 1 year ago. I've not been in great contact since, but they're working to expand a lot on the research aspect of things there. What they can say is that the results that they see, the actual study cases and people coming there, and what they see, because all the people go through a very rigorous, I would say, examination, and they do all the modern day testing, blood test, imaging, whatever is relevant to their disease. So people come there very with all the documents, and everything is documented. It's not something that maybe some other clinics, they do it without a medical supervision. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying everything there is very, very scientific and very medically oriented. The family doctors working there are working with the insurance companies, so sometimes people can get reimbursed for at least the doctor's checkup and meetings. So it's not something like alternative or something like non-mainstream. They're really, really working with all the facilities and all the modern day, let's say, paperwork and things like that. So everything is very highly documented. So there's no like, you know, fixing results, I don't know, or just writing things, reports which are not real. There's nothing of the sort.
So one thing that you mentioned and in the video, and you touched on it just a few minutes ago, was for type 2 diabetics, that the water fast is not recommended. And I actually have, you know, a former client who was interested. I don't know if you've ever heard of Joe Cross, who is
The name is a little bit, yeah.
So he did Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and it's all about.
Yes, okay, yeah,
Okay.
I saw it, absolutely.
So the juice fasting, and they have an online support group for diabetics who want to do a 60-day juice fast. And so I was just wondering what because I know the water fast isn't recommended, but the juice fast is purportedly more effective, and I'm just wondering how, you know, what your view is on that.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just give a brief answer and then go back to the answer you asked me about cancer, because it was just an opening to say, frankly, that we don't know exactly, but we have studies in mice and we have a lot of theories, so I can expand on that.
Okay.
Just to give some correction, in the video, it was a mistake from my side, and after we corrected it in the writing, water-only fasting is contraindicated in type 1 diabetics, not type 2.
Got it.
Type 2 is fantastic. Water-only fasting is fantastic for type 2 patients. Of course, you have to do it supervised with a trained physician who is trained in supervising patients in water fasting, not just any family doctor or primary care physician or anyone. The people who work with people who want to fast, they have to be trained, or at least that's how I see it. Of course, people are doing so many things out there, but to get the most benefits and to do it in a safe way, I highly recommend to work with people who are officially trained in the water-only fasting, or at least have a very long credit of work and success rates. Yeah. So
the answer to that, the short answer from what I hear you saying, is that a water fast can be really effective for type 2 diabetes.
It's amazing, yeah, because if we go into the mechanism of fasting, and we'll talk about water-only fasting because there are so many kinds of fasts, we can go into it later. In water-only fasting, after about 2 days, 2-3 days, it changes a little bit. After the body finishes metabolizing or using the glycogen, which is the glucose storage of the body, which is basically in the muscle and muscles all over the body and in the liver. This is where we have the glucose storage in the form of glycogen. After 2 or 3 days, the body finishes using these stores, and we it's a process, of course, because we always have fat metabolism, okay? Even in the fed state, when people are eating normally, we have, let's say, a major part of the metabolism is working on glucose metabolism, on what we're eating. When we exercise and when we're between the meals, so we use a little bit of the glycogen. When we fast, of course, there's no ingestion of food or any calories, so we're working heavily on on the glycogen. But there is always some part of fat metabolism, and it's a little bit complicated, so I don't want to get very, very deep into it. But every day, day to day, we always have the fat metabolism working in some capacity. When we're not eating, this capacity starts gearing up. And basically, when we exhaust the glucose we have stored, we start metabolizing the fat and using it for creating ketone bodies, which the body can use as fuel. and also gluconeogenesis, basically saying that we create new glucose from fat metabolism. That's the point.
How safe, how long is it safe to be in ketosis?
So today there's a lot of misconception, I would say, about ketosis, because people throw it around very lightly, I would say. And I would say that it's not a natural state to be in for a long time. Okay, the body is working on glucose. That's very clear. There is no plan, or the human body is not meant to work in ketosis for extended periods. We have all this movement about the keto diets and all this kind of thing. I can't say that they have the data to prove what they're doing is safe for the people. They might have short-term benefits, of course, but I would not recommend, and I don't think it's a safe measure or a safe way to have long-term effects. Again, we can have so many things. If I give anyone chemotherapy, they will lose weight, of course. But I would not recommend that as a long-term therapy with good health benefits, you know? Right. So just to keep that, and we know today the type 2 diabetes is basically insulin resistance, which comes from too much fat in the cells, okay? In a very simple, let's say, explanation, we know today that the number of fat cells in the body is constant. So a skinny person and a very obese person has the same, basically, roughly saying, the same number of fat cells in the body, or a constant number. It's just that the obese patient has a lot of fat inside every cell. So the cells swell up like a sack, you know, like a bag, like a balloon. And then this is what we see on the external aspect. So we know that for type 2 diabetes, there is a problem in the signaling for the signal of the insulin inside the cell. Because there's too much fat, the signaling is not going through. And basically we cannot work with the glucose. So then whatever we are eating is not going so much into the cells. And we have high hyperglycemia. We have too much glucose in the blood, which the insulin, although we have even higher amounts of insulin in type 2 diabetics, at least in the beginning before the beta cells get exhausted. So we can have higher rates of insulin in the body, but still have too much glucose circulating in the blood, because the glucose can't reach the target and get used in the engine, in the cells, to create energy, because of all the fat clogging the mechanism. So when people water fast, because we work on the fat metabolism, a lot of the fat that is sitting in the fat cells in the body starts getting outside the cells and start being used, actually, burned as fuel. So we basically sensitize again the body to insulin signals. And of course, we burn the glucose, okay? If someone goes to McDonald's, just any fast food or any junk food place, it doesn't matter. And they take 1 liter soda and drink that, it contains maybe ½ kilogram of sugar. So the body doesn't know what to do with this kind of amount and input. So we have a lot of circulating sugar in the blood, which the body has a lot of trouble managing.
Do we have you there? Okay. You cut out for just a second, but we...
Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay.
No, we heard what you said about so the sugar is circulating in there, and the body has a lot of trouble managing that because it's so much.
Yeah, because the cells are already blocked by the fat, and we don't need so much energy in one time. It's absolutely unnatural. In no time in history we had access to such a high caloric dense foods, okay? And this is something no one can argue if people argue about the paleo, whatever diet they want to follow. So no one had this kind of access to this kind of rich foods. They could munch on some sugar cane or have some fruits, but we know today that eating fruits, even if they're high glucose content, it doesn't work like eating processed sugar in the diet. So actually, yeah. Actually, today we see that eating fruits actually stubs the glucose peak from getting this such a high response from insulin, although we're ingesting a lot of sugar, because it comes in a whole pack with fiber and water and so many other things together, the phytonutrients. So it acts very, very differently. Yeah.
I hear so many clients say to me when they'll first come to me, they'll say, I can't have an apple because I'm diabetic. But they'll still have fast food because they don't understand that difference that you just talked about between the sugar that they're getting through a soda and the sugar that they're getting through an apple, or the sugar that they're even getting through processed bread.
Yeah. So yeah, from my experience dealing with people in any, like people who don't follow a very clean diet, is like dealing with the people who are addicts. It doesn't matter for which substance we're actually dealing with, but fast food is an addiction. If you tell someone you can't eat fast food for 1 day or 1 week, and they start having symptoms, like withdrawal symptoms, so it's an addiction to like any other addiction. And we know today that sugar, oil, and salt are highly addictive, I would say. It's funny because in India, I spent quite a long time in India training in like a natural medicine there for many years, almost 20 years I was going and coming and going. And in India, they addict the cows to salt. So the cow owners, they let the cows roam freely in the streets or wherever, and they addict the cows to salt. They have salt near the house, and they have the cows lick it, and then the cows know they want to come back. So that's how they keep them in line, you know. And we know that all the processed foods is highly has a very high content of sugar, salt, and oil, and that's what's giving the people this high. You know, we call it the sugar rush or the sugar high. We can see it in kids. You give the kids, small kids, something with high sugar content, and we see the reaction right away. You know, they will start being restless and having all kinds of symptoms.
There's actually a whole book about that. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Salt, Sugar, Fat by Michael Moss. And he calls that combination, or what they call it in the fast food and in the processed food industry, is the bliss point, which is the exact amount of salt, sugar, and fat that will keep you addicted to their product. And it is really scary because people don't realize what they're up against. They just think they like a certain food and they don't realize how addicted they are.
Yes, absolutely. So basically all, I don't want to say all, but anything that is processed, in order to have a shelf life, so you either add preservatives, you either put high amount of sugar, or you put salt or an oil. This is what stabilizes the food to have a long shelf life, or you radiate it like cans. Like tin cans, you have to radiate it so the germs inside don't have a big party before we eat it. So yeah, so this is the things that we see, and that's why it's very, very important to focus on a whole food, plant-based diet, to take the vegetables, to take the legumes, to take the pulses, the grains, everything from its normal form, cook it by ourselves or have someone cook it for us, and eat it like that, and without all the additives and things that are added to it to make it more plausible, I would say. Yeah,
So,
that's something so important.
so what they do, obviously the fast ends at some point. So let's just say either for people with type 2 diabetes or for cancer, then do they transition them into a whole foods plant-based diet?
Okay, so let's go and revise the whole, go through the whole process from start to end, just to give some understanding for people who don't know anything about fasting, what's going on. So basically, it's very recommended to find some place that has a good reputation and long history, safe history of fasting people with good medical results. And in the article that I wrote, I gave quite a few references for places that will do this kind of thing. And so getting in touch with someone that is knowledgeable about it and doing your own homework is very important to get acquainted with the terminology, with the risks, to see if it's something that is good for the person's condition. We have some contraindications for fasting. For example, pregnant women, it's absolutely contraindicated to fast them, okay? Because the metabolism in pregnancy is absolutely different, and we risk the newborn if we stress the pregnant women in this kind of state. So this is absolutely contraindicated. So I would say, just like people who come to see me in the ER and we have to send them to any imaging, we always do a pregnancy test, either blood or by urine, to rule it out, because we don't want to irradiate a pregnant woman. It's absolutely not a good thing. So this is a standard practice in the ER, for example. Any woman who comes in the fertile age, we do it before we send her to any imaging or anything that can risk or give any drugs that can influence something like that. And again, for someone who wants to fast, I would do a pregnancy test. Of course, the male patients are
They're exempt.
Yeah, they're exempt from that one point. And children are also contraindicated mostly for fasting. Very, very rare cases it would be recommended, but this is very something that should be like taken up with someone with a lot of experience in fasting. Again, because the metabolism in children, they're still growing, the organs are developing, the brain is developing. We know today that the brain keeps developing until the age of 24 even, it doesn't stop in a young age. And it's not only the mass and the volume that gets bigger, everything is still developing. So fasting can change that. And again, it's always risk and benefit, okay? That's the something. Sorry, my phone is ringing again. I have a problem because I'm connected to the internet through my cell phone, so I can't close that. But anyway, yeah, so for children, it's always cost benefit for anyone, okay? So we have to see if the child or anyone has a very severe illness, and fasting may be a little bit risky even, okay? I saw a lot of patients coming there, and they're very complicated patients, but they have physicians there working for 30 years in the clinic. One of the doctors there is a family doctor, and he's working for 30 years, and he saw thousands of patients. So he can deal with these kind of patients, which I would never take, for example, myself. I will not take responsibility because it's something out of my league. I don't have the background and the experience to do. So I would always refer to the person who can do it safely and not take the risk, not for the patient and not for myself. So, okay, we have the preparation phase. We're talking about water only fasting, okay? Because the other things are different. So for water only fasting, basically it cannot be done for more than 1, 2, 3 days with people who cannot stop their daily medication. Okay, so if someone is on any daily medication, and the medication cannot be stopped, they cannot fast. Okay, that's very important. It's very dangerous because the metabolism is changing absolutely in the body, and also the metabolism for the drugs is changing. So we don't know how the drugs work factually in this kind of state, because it's very kind of a special state, I would say, and not enough research is done in a human subject. We have mice models, but I would not risk anyone's health on that kind of research.
So again, we're talking about water fasting, not necessarily juice fasting.
I'm only talking about water only fasting. Juice fasting, we can do a separate kind of a thing. Okay. I'm only talking now about water only fasting for the time being. So we have the preparation phase, and then the patient, together with his primary care physician and the doctor who is going to supervise the water only fast, they will gradually remove the medication the patient is taking. For example, people with the hypertension, they will remove the medication. And then you will see people with the 200 systolic blood pressure, you know, in the clinic. And it's frightening, you know, for people who are untrained and don't know what they're looking at. And also for the patients, they have to know that, okay, you had the problem, you had the high blood pressure readings, you got treated with the blood pressure medication. So this is artificially fixing the problem on paper and lowering the blood pressure. I'm not going into if it's good or not for now, this kind of approach for blood pressure, just talking factually about what's happening. So we remove the medicine, so now the blood pressure will go up. So people who suffer for many years from this condition, obviously, or we can expect, let's say, with good suspicion, that the blood pressure will go up, okay, which is not going to be normal without the medication. So we remove the medication, either tapering down or in one go. It depends on the condition or how many illnesses the patient has. This is something very complex I don't want to get into. Basically remove the medicine. What we recommend before actually starting the fast is first of all to be in a controlled environment, okay? So if you're going to do an extended fast, which is more than 3 days, 3 days for someone who is healthy and want to do it for any reason, spiritual reason, health reason, whatever, and we can talk about the benefits of fasting later. So usually speaking, 3 days is safe to do, even without supervision. But this is something that people have to consider for themselves, how they want to work it out. More than 3 days, I would not recommend doing water-only fasting for anyone, okay? Because there are some pitfalls, there are some healing crises, there are some things that you have to be trained in to know and look for. Yeah, so in the 30 years, the True North Health Center is working with 50 to 60 patients in any given time. They didn't have any death in the clinic, which is unheard of, I would say. And they did fasting safety research, and it's one of the links. You can see it in the article. You can read it if you like. They had to do a profile to prove that fasting is a safe model. It's a funny history that they have. When they started working, they were sued for malpractice for endangering the patient. And because no one was doing it, no one knew what it was. It was something out there. Although it's a very ancient and very, I would say, something that we see in every kind of religion. There's a long, long history of fasting. It goes for many thousands of years. We have dated history and written history about that. So today the situation is a little bit funny, that things that are normal to us, we don't find normal and we don't know. And only those pioneers or, you know, people who are a little bit not mainstream, they're talking about. And all the things that are absolutely crazy and upside down and risky and things, this is the mainstream and this is what people are doing.
Well, Dr. Esselstyn, you know, his sort of famous quote is about how we think it's completely normal to crack open someone's chest.
Exactly.
You know, for open
Exactly.
hearts, let me take a vein out of your leg and put it in your heart. But when you say plant-based diet to someone, they're like, oh, that's too much.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
exactly.
such an odd,
Exactly.
yeah.
So things today are really upside down, I would say, and things that should be are not, and the things that should not be are mainstream. So it's quite challenging to work in this kind of atmosphere. Also with the fellow co-workers and people who are medical professionals, but they are not interested, or they don't have training, or they don't have the right background for it. So they don't know. It seems bizarre for them. And in med school, we didn't have even 1 hour about nutrition. 6 years, absolutely no training in nutrition, nothing, zero.
Do you see the tide turning there?
Yes and no, I would say, because I don't want to sideline from the explanation about the fasting and the process, because people can lose the thing, but let's go back to this. Okay, just remind me after we finish the overview of the water-only fasting process. Okay. We can talk about it afterwards, because it's very tempting, but I want to have the audience.
I want to make sure we get you out on time, so I'm trying to hit all the bases, but yes, absolutely.
Yes, of course. First of all, I'm very happy to work with you guys again. I think it's such a great honor and privilege to get the message out there. For me, this is my passion, you know, and I love to do it. I put a lot of effort into the things that in the articles and everything. Basically, all the information that I have, that I know that is good and safe. I may not agree with everything 100%, because also in the reference that I give, some of the doctors, they have a little bit different. But generally speaking, all the things that are given are highly researched, and they have a good, like, credible source. And yes, I put a lot of time to bring all this information for people, because today we have overexposure to the information. In DR, we call it Dr. Google. People come and they tell us, you know, I read in Google that my headache, I need a CT, head CT, because I think I have brain cancer, you know, and you have to give like a 5-minute lecture to the person that they can relax and probably stressed, or being a little bit dehydrated and not really having cancer. So we have a difficulty today because people have overexposure. People who are untrained have access to anything, and a lot of mix and conflicting messages are out there, and it's very difficult for people who don't have a very strong scientific and really down to earth, and I would say like a good eye to find things that are really, you know, all this fix quick and, you know, wham bam, thank you ma'am, all this kind of things, you know, quick fixes. People are they really love this thing, because the pace of life today is very, very hectic. People don't have the time or the energy or the effort, the resource to look into things and do something very long term. Everyone want to be a millionaire in 3 days, you know, this is like the thing. Everyone wants to the quick fix. Okay, tell me how to fix this, heal cancer in 30 days. I don't know, things, you know. So yeah, it's very tempting and very confusing to find good information out there. So that's why it's very important for me to, again, give and explain in very credible way and very resource-based and scientific-based and result-based the safe methods to do things. And that's why it's so important to me, and I'm so happy to work with you for this kind of thing, because this is what we do.
Got to get the right information out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so I don't want to,
it's not so easy to do. Yeah.
It's not. And I mean, I see it even with what I'm doing. It gets frustrating because people do think they know what they're talking about just because they saw it on Facebook or, you know, and they're so sure. And it's hard sometimes to convince them with studies or, you know, well, what about this? And so it is, I totally, I can relate to what you're talking about. It's an uphill battle.
Yeah. In Israel, the people are a little bit different in mentality from the US, and me as well. I don't try to be politically correct. You know, people who come with this kind of things, I give them really a very short, no bullshit answer. I told them, okay, so let Dr. Google treat you. You know, if you know what's best for you, why did you come to me? You know.
I like that answer. I might steal that.
It's very, I say it very kindly. I don't try to, you know, bully people or tell them I'm right and I have the answers for you. But it's just giving a very reality check, you know, for people. Right. People come with all sorts of ideas, you know, on one hand, and on the other hand, they're lost for solutions, you know. So if you don't know what to do, so maybe your information is not such a good source, you know. Otherwise, right. You can deal with it yourself. Why you come to me, you know?
Right.
Why do you need me? Yeah, so this is we joke about it, you know. We have like, in Israel, things are a little bit more in your face, a little bit more open. It's like a little bit different kind of attitude.
Well, I like that. I may move there then.
That's at your own risk.
That's more my personality. They don't always appreciate me here.
Yeah. I had the same issue. It was not a problem because most of the people I worked with when I was in the US, they understood that the mentality is different and how I behave is something, you know, a little bit different, but they came to understand that it's just another way of doing things. And I have a very direct kind of approach. I don't like to sugarcoat things. I don't like to tell stories or give people like very kind of high information and language. I never use scientific and medical terminology with the patients. Never, never, ever. Even if the people are very intelligent, I never use it because people who come to DR, they're highly stressed. They're usually in pain or they have some serious issue. Exactly. And they just don't connect, even if they know the things and they understand the language in a day-to-day setting. In this kind of setting, they actually absolutely don't register if the doctor comes to them with the white coat and the stethoscope and all this, you know, facade. So they absolutely, the message is missed, you know. So it's just my way of doing things. I'm not saying it's the right way, but it's just my way of doing things. And,
well, I know I got you off track, and you wanted.
So let's go to the water fast.
Yes.
Let's go back to the water fast.
Okay.
So we did the research. We found some medical professional that can supervise the fast. We found a place to do it. And we saw that, that our condition is something that will have benefit for. Not everything is indicated for water, only fasting, sorry. Okay, let's talk about the contraindications later. So we did the research, we have the person, we found the place, We may do it at home after a very good preparation or someone supervising us. We always have to have someone handy to just be there and check us out, you know? And that's very important because some people may have a drop in glucose, hypoglycemia, which is quite a dangerous state. If it's unsupervised, people can go into a coma and get into serious situation if they're left alone for a long time, unsupervised. Yeah. So basically, if someone is taking any medication, we have to taper it down or stop it before starting, or on the first day, stop it in the first day. So people start the fast, they only drink purified water, okay, which means that we filter the water. And if someone is interested in all the technicalities of water quality, they can refer to the first webinar, an article that I posted on the water, okay, drinking more water. It's a 6th week on the Just One Thing for Health. Okay. Everything is written down. So basically we use good quality water. We can also use carbonated water as well during a water fast. But usually, generally speaking, we use purified water through a good system of purification.
Now, what is there an advantage to carbonated water, or is that just because you guys are mixing it up for them, or what?
Yeah, so basically people do a water fast. That's the baseline. People who have indigestion, they have some nausea, they have some heartburn. It's just boring to drink 30 days plain water, okay? So these kind of people, we can let them have carbonated water.
Okay. Yep.
Again, we take a good quality water and we carbonate it. Okay, in the Tunar, they have this kind of Israeli device to carbonate the water.
Okay.
And yeah, so this is something we can work with. Generally speaking, without going into very fine details, because people with kidney issues, also they're a little bit contraindicated to fasting, but people should not drink too much and also not too little. So 1.5 liters per day. I don't know how much is this in ounces. I'm not very familiar with the American standard.
Okay.
I think is 1/4 of a gallon, something like that.
Okay. I can look it up.
Yeah, anyway, 1.5 liters, we can do the conversion later.
Okay.
This is the minimal recommended daily amount, okay, on a water fast. So the water is working as one of the actions that the water is doing during the fast is filtering and carrying away all the things that are getting thrown into the circulation and needs to be dealt with through the kidneys and excreted. So we need the water carrier to have that. So people who don't drink enough, this is something that can break the fast, okay? Someone for any reason that cannot drink or who's not drinking enough, we absolutely have to break the fast if they're not able to fix this situation quite quickly, I would say. People with nausea, for example, we had one patient come, which was not exactly stable. She didn't state exactly what was her condition because she made the booking, 3 months ago, and she took leave and everything and invested her time and money and everything. So she wasn't very frank with her baseline health condition at that time. And she already came with some issue which was not reported. And it only got worse during the fast. She was having a lot of belching and nausea and a little bit of vomiting, and she couldn't drink anything. And finally, we had to take her to the ER because we couldn't manage it normally. The patient who cannot drink, so they're getting into a dangerous state. So this is the one patient
Yeah.
in all the hundreds of patients that circulated in the time that I was there, that we had to take to DR. And again, it was not like a normal patient, because she hid her actual situation. It was not something that anyone could foretold, because she didn't give the correct information.
So it looks like it's about 6 to 8 cups of water per day for anyone.
Yeah, so cup is a very problematic definition for me, because 1 cup can be this big.
And so, okay, so
yeah,
it's about 50 ounces minimum from what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, this is something, yeah, because their glasses is 12 ounces, that I know.
Yeah.
The glasses there, they have a standard glass, because when we check on the patient, we ask them how many glasses. We don't ask them how many ounces or something like that. It's a very simple method, you know. You drink, you put the glass down, you drink another glass, you put, and then you count the glasses, you know.
So it looks like about 50 ounces minimum.
Yeah, minimum, yeah, per day. This is the amount required to sustain a long-term water-only fast. Of course, you can drink more. There's no problem. But again, there is a higher limit. Usually, it's very, very rare for people to reach it. Okay? Again, this is something that a trained professional, we know how to deal with. I don't want to get into it, but there's no problem drinking a little bit more, even 2 liters, or, you know, but even 100 ounces. But you have to be a little bit careful and check on the patient, also to see why he's drinking so much, okay? Maybe he has vomiting, which is not reporting. Maybe he has some other issue, you know? So this is our things, telltale signs, you know, that we have to be aware of, just to see what's happening. And when it's medically supervised, we have a very strict regime that everything is documented. We follow the patient. We know the patient history, everything. Everyone is on page on what's happening, how long the patient is fasting. So everything is done in a very, very controlled environment, which makes it safe for us to get good results, you know?
Right.
Because people can do so many things, you know? And okay, one person had a good results and is going on the YouTube. I found a new, you know, solution for everyone's disease and problems, but it may be not okay for most of the population. So we have to be very careful with this kind of things before we recommend and take responsibility for other people about these kind of things. Water only fasting is the most, I would say, the best health measure or intervention that people can do for mostly any kind of issue, even if they're healthy, okay? Except for eating well, that's a long-term thing. Fasting is the best intervention that I know of up to date, okay? And I'm not saying it lightly, because I have such a big arsenal of things that I can use and I have access to, but this is the safest, it's the most cost-effective, it has the most dramatic, and now I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, there's a feedback.
Okay. Anyway, let's try to continue. It's a little bit.
I think it's you, Pete. Are you unmuted?
Peter, it's you maybe? Yeah. Okay, now it's good.
Now,
If you mute yourself, Peter, so that solves the problem. Thank you. Sorry.
So it's 1:05. So just so you know, I know you're on a limited time, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll go more briefly into it, and we can continue some other time. It's okay, we can schedule that. Yeah, so basically, it's the best intervention that I know of till today, up to date. Of course, when it's done right, for the right reasons, under supervision, all this kind of thing. Okay, you're going, Peter? Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So basically, the patient will have some kind of plan laid out before they fast, just to have some kind of estimate, you know. We have a good record to know approximately how long it will take to fix every condition. For hypertension, for example, they book people for 1 month. That's the standard. Okay? It's not saying that they're going to fast for 30 days, but that's approximately the time zone and the timeline to start the fast, get the results, refeed, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and get the person stabilized, basically leaving the clinic without hypertension or a very good decrease in the numbers and without the drug therapy. So basically door to door, we take sick people, we remove the medicine, we let them fast, we refeed them, and they go out the door stable, without drugs. They lose 0.5 kilogram of weight every day on a water-only fast, okay, which is quite a dramatic thing to see. When I was working there, so we were inputting all the data in the computer, so we had always the picture of the patient when they came in. And for people who stayed for a long time, it was just amazing to see the before and after.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my friend Tal has also some kind of before and after picture. Maybe he let us show it some other time, or maybe you can see it later. I carry it with me. This is my, you know, something that I'm really happy that that we managed to do together. Okay, anyway, I'll ask his permission. Tal, maybe you can text me if you allow us to talk about it. And maybe you can give some more information. Yes, okay. So basically we went together to med school, and Tal was about, I don't want to say in pounds because I'm not sure of it. He was around 110 kilograms. Correct me in the details if I'm wrong, Tal. He was very overweight, basically. Yeah. He lost basically 110 pounds over 2 years, transitioning from a normal SAD diet to a whole food plant-based diet. He lost 110 pounds in 2 years. He was training for a triathlon. Okay, so he was swimming, running, and biking very intensely. And yeah, that's really such a big success. I'm so proud of him. He's such a good friend of mine and dear person and such a great health professional. And he gained his life. You know, he was reborn because he's 110 pounds lighter. His health is much better. He can do so many things that he was not able to do and he couldn't dream of doing before that.
So Tal,
yeah.
I was just going to ask him, and he can answer in the comments. But
yeah.
Something very similar happened to me. I adopted a whole foods plant-based diet. I lost 60 pounds, and I not only look different and have, you know, so much more energy and different physically, but my brain is different. You know, I think differently. I mean, and I'm wondering if he's experienced that as well.
Good question.
For sure. He says, yes, I can relate to that. Yeah. It's like being a whole new person. It's that
absolutely
that epigenetics, you know, where you're almost rebuilding a whole new person.
Yeah. Sometimes when we joke about it, when we meet, we're just reminiscing of the good old days and thinking about what was before, and just imagining my friend today carrying 50 kilograms, 110 pounds. It's like carrying a child, you know, on your back all day, going to sleep on that with that weight. So it's not just a cosmetic thing. It's not just an appearance thing. It's not just, you know, it's absolutely totally different life-changing experience.
He says it's a life-changing event worth experimenting even for a short period of time. The difference in overall feel will speak for itself and won't let you go back to previous bad habits. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will never go back. I don't ever want to feel that way again. So I totally relate to that.
So more power to you, and good for you both to have this kind of thing. Results, it's absolutely fantastic. And this is the things we see on a daily basis with people who go in this kind of lifestyle. Let's just go back to the fasting because it was a little bit cut, and then go back to other things. So basically, the patient will fast until they get their results. For example, the glucose levels that they wanted, or we were aiming for, the blood pressure measures that we wanted before the fast. So when they attain their goal, basically they can break the fast. Of course, every day that the fast goes on, there is more benefit, and it's not a linear kind of graph. It's very, very significant change for the better every day that goes on. That's the power of the long fast, okay? Intermittent fasting, juice fasting, 3-day water only fasting, okay, you will have great results. And if you do it long-term, intermittent fasting, it's good, okay? But you can achieve things very, very quickly with the water only fast. Just imagine if you lose half a kilogram, which is, I don't know, 1 pound. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
2. Yeah,
1
pound.
About,
anyway,
yeah, something like that.
Anyway. So, and it's mostly fat. Of course, that's water weight. Of course, I'm not ignoring that. And people gain weight once they refeed. Okay, that's obvious because for some time we're not using our digestive system. Everything that we had inside is eliminated. The bacteria volume, everything, the inflammation, water content, everything is going down. The funny thing is that on a water-only fasting, it's a quite dehydrated state to be in. Although we can drink, 5 liters of water every day, because there are no minerals going in, so we're actually in a light or kind of a dehydrated state, or let's say a not very hydrated state. So of course, when we refeed, the people will gain some weight. Of course, not everything will come back because we burn so much fat in the process. But we start eating, the digestive system is starting to work. We have so many things sitting in the gut. So of course, we will gain weight after the fast. We have, we know how much it is going to be. It's not very dramatic, but the people will stabilize after the fast on a much lower weight. Yeah.
So do you find that you mentioned the gut, and there's a lot of talk right now about the significance of the gut biome. And do you find that fasting really regenerates your gut bacteria in a positive way?
Yeah, so we have to understand that what is sitting in our inside is fed by what we put into this container or channel or whatever, the digestive system. So if we put nonsense and fast food and all this kind of thing, we'll have the microbiome which will reflect this kind of thing and feed on this kind of thing. And this we know there's a strong connection between the bacteria that sits in the GI tract and other health issues that we have. And it's funny that you said that you feel better after losing all this weight, because we know that when we have good so-called bacteria in the gut, we have good mental capacity as well, because we have such a heavy innervation of nerves in the gut system. And also we have such a heavy and large percent of the immune system sitting in the GI tract, in this system. So if someone has inflammation, just imagine that I'm pressing on someone's foot or something like that, and continuing pressing and agitating all these nerves endings and everything on a, you know, chronic base. And I'm creating so much how to say, signal coming and distress coming from this big innervation system and big part of our body. And the brain is overwhelmed. So we can connect absolutely a lot of mental states with what we eat. That's absolutely a very good point and very well documented. In Russia, they have a clinic in the Baikal Lake, which also has a very long history of water-only fasting. And they take mentally ill patients, patients with schizophrenia, and they make them better, something which is unheard of in the medical world, you know?
I've been reading some studies on this, and it's really fascinating. People, just like you said, schizophrenia. So interesting that would have anything to do with gut bacteria. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, so they have a little bit different style of work there because they're letting the people exercise during the fast, which in the fast that we are talking about for the general public, the water-only fast is done in resting conditions, okay? Which means there's no day-to-day, no intense, moderate workouts, no things that agitate the system, stress of any kind, okay? That's why it's so important to go out from the normal environment if you want to do a very big change. You have to change the environment, okay? Right. Because where you live has such a big influence on how you are and your state is, because it's a reflection, you know? If you go into some person who is very sick into the house, and when I was working, volunteering, on the emergency services, we're coming to people's houses, and people who are sick, their house looks sick as well, you know? Yeah. It's not taken care of, it's messy, they have things lying around, the food is bad, so many things, you know, because our, let's say, internal environment, we can see it on our body, of course. When people walk in the ER, it takes me 3 seconds to understand who I'm dealing with, because that's what we do on a daily basis. Mm. And of course, it reflects outwards to the environment they're living in. And it goes both ways. The environment can have a detrimental effect on the health, and the health will, so it's a vicious circle, you know? And if you want to break this kind of thing, just like people going for rehab, they don't do it at home with their drug addict friends and going to parties and trying to deal with these conditions in their normal settings. They go to some secluded place, and it's very good to have it in some natural setting. Yeah, we have to finish soon, sorry, because I have to start another.
Well, can you, just for the people who are watching us who may be just kind of interested in maybe intermittent fasting, yeah. So as we wrap up, can you just talk about maybe what that looks like, what the benefits might be?
Yeah, okay, so just to conclude on the fasting, I can say so many good things about fasting, but it's not a cure-all, magic pill, magic bullet, this kind of thing, you know, that people will do once and just, you know, it's not a quick fix. It's some kind of intervention that has very good results and can give people the edge and the change they need to do and reverse really tough conditions. But the long-term lifestyle that people do, what people do day to day, what they eat, how they interact with other people, the stress level, the stress management, the sleep, and all these will actually give the long-term benefits, okay? So just to give an extreme example, if someone is a drug addict, we take him through rehab, he has some good things, he's losing, you know, his health is getting better. He goes out, he starts doing the drugs again, he will fall again to his same condition. Of course, he will gain something from this experience, but there is nothing that can replace a good and healthy lifestyle. That's something that's some point that is very important to make. Not to think that we can shortcut things and have a quick fix. It doesn't work. All the things that are quick fix, history shows that it has some kind of backlash and something that will go wrong in the long run.
Right. And
Yeah,
so,
so
and
for
even with
intermittent fasting, what it means basically that we narrow the time or the hours in the day which we eat in. Okay, usually we don't restrict the calories. It's unnecessarily. We can eat as much as we like when we eat from a whole food plant-based diet. Okay, you can basically not overdose on that.
Right.
Yeah, on that. So generally speaking, yeah, for every condition we have to be very specific, but generally speaking, intermittent fasting is narrowing the feeding window. So it means basically, practically saying, it means that I will stop eating at one point, let's say 6 in the evening. Okay, that will be my last meal. Sorry. Traditionally in the Jewish tradition, and one of the big physicians in the day, the Rambam, he was basically saying that when the sun goes down, we stop eating, okay? Previously, we didn't have all this artificial lighting and all this kind of way of life that we can work 24 hours around the clock. People, the sun went down, they go to rest, they sit around the campfire for a while, and they go to sleep. There was no this kind of nonsense of staying awake all night and cutting short the sleeping hours for any reason. So basically, in the intermittent fasting, we give some kind of deadline. We stop to eat, let's say at 6 p.m. It can be 8, it doesn't matter, whichever time people want to do it at. And then we will give a big window where we don't eat, okay? So my thesis work in med school was about sleep disorders related to mental disorders. So I spent a lot of time in a sleep lab and also correlating mental issues and general well-being, with sleep issues. So in the sleeping state, we're actually doing so many things. It's not a, we go to sleep, yes, it looks like we're inactive, in one aspect of our lives, but there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes and a lot of sorting out happening. And when we eat late in the night or things like that, or we don't sleep, or we have a lot of problems and things that wake us up during the night for any reason. So all these processes are cut short or disturbed, and then we'll see things influencing our general health-being and actual diseases coming from lack of sleep. Maybe sleep will be another webinar.
Right.
We can do another
That's a whole other topic, right?
Yeah. This is a topic that is very dear to my heart, which is because I think that in the lifestyle, sleep is one of the major aspects and one of the major columns of good health. So good sleep is good. Yeah, not to go too much into that. So intermittent fasting, we stop eating at one point. We give a long period of break to the system. We're not eating. And we can start eating again at 10 a.m. in the morning or go directly to lunch. We can do it from once a week, build it up, and do it as an everyday practice. Everything has to be done moderately, okay? It's very important not to go and overshoot, okay? Because when people try to fix and do things very, very dramatically and very kind of rushing into it, so they have bad results. And we see these people in the ER, people who think they're smart and they try to do things and cut short normal processes, and they end up in the hospital, and end up with some bad problem, or be their health being disrupted or having other problems. They may lose weight,
Right.
But this is not an indication for health. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the punchline for the paleo diets and the keto diets. You're going to lose weight. Okay, yes, maybe in the short term.
Right.
But you're going to lose your weight, your health as well in the process.
Right.
You
It's
keep
not a
that
long-term solution. That's what I
No,
keep telling people
Yeah.
is, you know, the healthy lifestyle is the long-term solution.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So-
there's no replacing that. There's no pill that can work there. There's no doctor that can fix that. You know, people will have that have bad habits, they will have bad problems, you know, bad health.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Well-
no going around that.
Pete has left us, and I know you have to go too.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry, I have a, yeah.
I'm so thankful that you were able to come today. This is such an interesting topic, so I hope that people will watch this, and I know that they're going to learn so much. And you have the article and the video that they can watch as well. And when we repost this, I'll make sure that we post the link to the water information as well.
Sure,
Because
yeah. In my article, I linked it. So
Okay.
everyone who reads the fasting article in the beginning, they
Can
will
get to
see, they get the links for that article and presentation. I put it in. And we can revise this topic again. Fasting has so many things to say about, and we just scratched the surface,
Right.
you know?
And the sleep
yeah, it's
topic,
such a
we'll
big
have to
deal.
we'll come back to sleep also, because that is
Yes,
huge.
absolutely.
For almost everyone I know, it's a huge issue.
Yes,
And
it
like
is.
you said, some of it is they're still digesting a bunch of stuff that they ate before they went to bed. And so there's
Yeah.
so many layers to it. So it's such a
Yeah,
great topic.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so much. And thank you,
My
Tao, for
pleasure.
joining.
Thank you. Thank you,
And,
Tal, for joining us.
Thank you. And we will see you again soon. Thank you, Dr. Goldberg.
Definitely, my pleasure. All the best. Take
You
good
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.